Hi, everyone. It is such a pleasure that you're able to make it to today's How to Improve Deal Desk Efficiency with Agile CPQ event, partnership with Deal Desk Association and Deal Hub. In today's event, we have some marvelous guest speakers. First of all, we've got Katie, the Director of Global Deal Desk at Braze, the customer engagement platform for multi-channel marketing. We also have Bruce, Director of Finance Applications at Torchy's Tacos. Damn good tacos indeed. I've yet to try it, but I'm pretty sure they're damn good anyways. And Eol, CRO at Deal Hub. And lastly, myself, Steve Chung, founder of Deal Desk Association. And so if we could start sharing a little bit about ourselves before we kick things off. Katie, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your experience as well?
Yeah, sure. So as Stephen mentioned, my name is Katie Zinman. I'm the Global Director of Deal Desk here at Braze. So we're a customer engagement platform that delivers messaging experiences across push, email, in-app messages, and more. I've been with the business for almost 5.5 years now. I started off as a Salesforce analyst, which is really just a fancier way of saying Salesforce admin, and moved into the deal desk function in the fall of 2018. Prior to that, Braze did not have a deal desk, so I've really worked to, define the role, the scope, the responsibilities, and build out the team. So we've seen incredible growth on my team. I hired my first deal desk analyst back in May 2020 at the start, around the start of the pandemic, and we've since grown to a team of. So we're proving the value of Deal Desk here at Braze and continuing to build the team.
Got it. And just a small tad bits, froze a little bit on I think my end, but how many folks do you have on your Deal Desk team now?
Yes, I have 11, including myself, with people located in New York, San Francisco, Chicago, London, and Singapore.
Wow. Oh, damn. All right. Well, super excited to ask a few questions to you, Katie, because that is something to certainly be proud of, and that is not easy to do. So it's phenomenal that you have that experience. So let's pass it off to Bruce. Would love to hear more about yourself and also your experience as well.
Yeah. So I've always been involved with business applications. From analyzing software, reviewing software, architecting, and implementing solutions. So definitely seen a lot of evolution around the CPQ space, architecting that whole quote to cash, going way back, big machines, steel brick, Salesforce CPQ, and then ultimately Deal Hub. So having done multiple implementations of all those quote to cash processes, using those quoting tools and those CRM tools in the private equity world, the private world, and the public world. So definitely seen a lot of change over the years with a lot of different systems and applications.
Incredible. I feel as if seeing all those different nuances, business applications, the processes, the automation that goes on is already invaluable, but to already have exposure to these different sectors in terms of public, private, et cetera. I can only imagine you're dealing with different products. Some of them may be recurring, non-recurring. So I'm sure that there's been a lot of great insights that you can share later today. So super excited. And then lastly, Eol, CRO at Deal Hub. Please share a little bit more about yourself and also experience.
Yeah, sure. Great. Well, first of all, thanks for everybody for joining us today. So Eyal Orgil, Chief Revenue Officer at Deal Hub. I'm actually one of the founders, been with the company now, so I guess it's coming up on 8 years. I'd always worked in sales and marketing and done configurations and pricing and all that. But I think in the last 8 years, the amount of different ways people price and configure that has just been overwhelming. There's such a wide breadth of way from different products and services that people have, how they put it all together. It's been a learning experience for me. You're always, get some surprise by something, how people are doing things and all that. And also with the, coming in of Deal Desk a lot more these days as well, all of a sudden it's brought in another element of things of how people are looking at the proposals and how they're looking at how the processes that are going through the organization. So it's really interesting to see how the industry has really evolved. It's been a lot of years doing it. It seems like it was yesterday, but it's been a long time. But it's great to see the CPQ space and the deal desk environment just really blooming nowadays. It's been an exciting part of this industry.
Amazing. And I know that there's resources like the Magic Quadrants. You can understand the industry, the trends, and that in CPQ it appears that it's continuing to grow just a tad bit year over year, and so there is a need to certainly make this experience a lot more self-service, a lot easier, and also really on an organizational level. How do we improve sales velocity, reduce errors? How do we make it so that it's a lot more, not just flexible, usable, but also operable, and also quite the seamless experience at the end of the day? And, folks like sales, marketing, deal desk, and folks in business applications certainly can bring that all into fruition. And so really to just kick things off, Katie, first question, if you don't mind. With your experience from that last Revamp podcast, I thought was super phenomenal in terms of your history, your background, even going further than Braze. You're coming from art history, and I would imagine that there's a lot of things behind it. But you then went into Salesforce and then into Deal Desk at Braze. From your experience, what exactly has changed from your perspective in the Deal Desk world, I guess, over in the past 2 to 3 years to where we're at now?
Well, my days in our history were certainly longer than 2 to 3 years ago, but I think Ayal spoke nicely to this, right? Like, we are seeing like deal desk teams grow, just even by the notion of the deal desk community, deal desk association. That didn't exist 2 or 3 years ago. We're seeing more and more open headcount and roles for deal desk professionals. And I think that's due to the proven success and investment in having a deal desk function. So, there's a lot of different areas that a deal desk team can help in, order automation, ensuring accuracy, pricing guidance, serving as the conduit between your sales, legal, accounting, product marketing teams, and so on and so forth. So that's, just the overall growth of Deal Desk has really taken off. And we're also seeing more and more platforms and tooling that are directed for Deal Desk teams. So certainly CPQ, of course, which we'll spend the majority of today talking about, but other tools, for example, Mercero, which is, a tool designed for Deal Desk people or Deal Desk teams to help them streamline deal management processes. So it's almost like an up and up chart with just the growth of this function.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The value that deal desk teams deliver and can provide to organizations, whether big or small, whether they're looking to go public or, whatever the rationale is. We also see more roles opening up. And, just as you had mentioned before, now we're beginning to see more systems applications that are directly designed for deal desk teams. And so there's certainly a trend, upward trend that's going on. And so as Katie had mentioned before, as an example, Deal Hub as a CPQ application. Bruce, if I can ask you, in your experience, particularly with business applications, why is perhaps what we kind of touched base on a little bit, that CPQ agility, the cornerstone, of modern sales success? Why is CPQ agility so important to that?
Oh, well, you said one of my favorite terms is sales velocity. So it's all about sales velocity, revenue velocity, where sales revenue is on top and the time that revenue is on the bottom. So data, sales, everything's moving faster these days with the internet and connected cloud-based applications. So being that I've never worked at a company where sales and revenue was not the number one goal, that is the entry point. The quoting tool is the entry point for that sales and revenue. So you need to make it the most efficient. You need to make it look the best for your potential prospects. You need to make sure that your sales team can quote and price to perfection. And then once it's quoted and priced to perfection, that it then continues to the deal desk correctly. The deal desk is only getting approvals when they're supposed to get approvals, because that's gotten a lot more mature. In the past, it was deal desk, we're getting everything, and if you're getting everything, you're getting nothing. They don't know why they're getting things. So now it's highly targeted approvals at the right time, so they can efficiently and quickly move that quote down the line. And then once that gets approved, then efficiently delivering a very good looking quote to that customer so they can see everything they need to see, so they have all the information to make the decision as quickly as possible, once again, all along that velocity. So that is why it is so key, because that is where it all starts.
Yeah, no, I love how you described it. Never been at a company where sales and revenue was secondary. It was always primary, but that CPQ is that entry point. You know, it's like, let's start a business, but let's just focus on buying. Let's just keep focusing on buying stuff that we can't afford. But from what Bruce had mentioned, if I can also pose this question, much has been talked about the customer experience, as Bruce had mentioned, that we want to make sure that on our ends we're able to use a system like Deal Hub to configure, price the quote, send it off so that's all aligned, and that deal desk can review it afterwards. When it comes to customer experience, why does sales user experience, I guess, matter much more than it's ever been before now?
Well, I think CPQ is evolved to the point where we've realized that you can't just put a tool in place that's just a tool. You've got to make sure that the salespeople are going to use it. From my point of view, if you don't have I would say 100% adoption, and maybe someone will correct me and say, okay, we had 99% of our reps are using it. But if you don't have nearly that 100% adoption, that's a failed project to me. You've got to have that full use by the sales team. The whole point of putting in the CPQ is to put that control in place, to give the salespeople the ability to go and do the things that they have to do. Make it very intuitive. You have to make it very intuitive for them so they'll want to use it. So it's really key to think about that user experience from the salesperson so they will use it, because ultimately that CPQ is there to give value to the organization. It's there so they can build out the right quote. They can get back to their customers in a very timely manner, that you can have those controls in place that you want. So if you don't have the users using it, it's a failed all the way down through the process over there. So you don't have the governance over your processes. You're not getting back to the customers on time. You're possibly having revenue leakage because they're not doing the things they're doing because they went around the CPQ process. So at the end of the day, you're not getting the value that you were looking to get out of that. So if you're going to put in a CPQ, if you're not looking to have that user experience there so that they will use it, you better go back to scratch and start from the beginning and say, okay, how do we do this again? You've got to have that as 100%. It's definitely without thinking of the users first. And on top of that, obviously we look at the operations people as well, and the deal desk people, making sure it's easy for them as well. But you've got to start off with those salespeople. It's essential.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Where I would imagine for CPQ specifically for this conversation, really any other software tooling, you can only imagine that this would only succeed if there's usage that then drives that adoption for greater usage and so forth. So when it comes to kind of what you had mentioned before, sales success is often linked to process efficiency. And so we know that Deal Desk and even CPQ and business applications have a lot of data, a lot of fields that are connected for automation, for guardrails, for the governance to be set in place. Katie, if I could ask you, with high sales turnover in many organizations, particularly right now in the current climate with some of the wonky things happening with the recession, the market, and so forth, how are knowledge and skills around structuring deals maintained? Training sales to determine what products go together, ensuring that this product is actually correct for this opportunity. So really at the end of the day, how are we structuring deals when it comes to kind of the potential knowledge gap and skills that may be missing from your own team?
Sure. So, CPQ first and foremost, with things like guided selling or product dependencies. For example, if I buy product A, I must buy product A's service or corresponding service. validation rules that will only allow, salespeople in a certain segment to sell a certain product. And this is all done in the system. So you don't even see what you don't need to see. And I think that's what's really key here is, pricing tools, whether they're done in Excel or elsewhere, there's a lot on there and it can be totally overwhelming to a new sales hire to download a massive Excel file. So in CPQ, you see what you need to see and only what you need to see. So with playbooks too, you can conditionally hide or show different information. I'll also add, is my connection okay right now? Yes. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it's like I was seeing a little freezing. I'll also add that documentation here is your best friend. So, maintaining a Confluence page, which is what we use, both for that is sales or go-to-market facing, as well as a Confluence page for your internal deal desk teams around policy, updates, and so on. We also leverage an LMS or learning management system here at Braze, which when a new sales hire comes on board as part of their onboarding process, they'll actually be assigned both a pricing course, which, describes the products we sell, different talk tracks and explanations of when to sell the product that's more from a human, because while CPQ is awesome, sometimes you need that human touch. And we also have a CPQ course in the LMS as well. That's just part of required training for new sales hires. So onboarding, documentation, CPQ, chef's kiss.
Wow. I still have yet to learn how to make a pizza. My pizza tasted more like dough the last few months ago. But yes, that makes sense. Chef's recipe in terms of having those three things aligned. And so, Bruce, over at your current organization and just expertise overall, how do successful sales organization focus their reps on communicating value to prospects instead of just simply choosing products? So really, what has your experience been in terms of sales reps being able to communicate value beyond the products that are just being presented as an example in CPQ or on the quote?
Yeah, so you definitely hit on one of my hot button topics is I never want somebody looking at a list of products and trying to select what products they want, because I've proven out many times that's revenue leakage anywhere from 4 products to companies from 500 products to companies at 6,000 products. So it is all about guided quoting, and that playbook is so key. Because when I moved from a CPQ tool that they were picking the products, 10 different reps would pick 10 different products. And then it was taking an enormous amount of time for reps to ramp up, because try learning 500 products or 6,000 products and how they all go together, and there's infinite combinations. So it was not a good experience, and we were just never selling the right thing at the right price. So getting a quoting application that does have that true guided quoting that you can set up and everybody agrees this is how we quote. So now the reps can focus on that organic selling process. You learn the products, you organically sell. Don't try to wonder which combinations of 500 products or 6,000 products they need. To me, it was all about that. So now you go out, you can focus on selling, you can focus on the value prop, selling that product organically. You just put those answers in the playbook. You know the playbook is going to get out the right products at the right prices. And then what's been revolutionary too is ramp up time. Is when I've switched to the guided quoting process, our ramp up time went from 12 months to really kind of learn the product mix to literally just a few weeks, because we said, hey, here's your playbook. You just take out the playbook, you learn the products, and you go sell. And we literally had our most productive reps that had only been on the job about 6 weeks when we switched to true guided quoting, versus somebody trying to learn 500 products and they could really honestly never learn that. So it is all about the guided quoting. That's that playbook that they can focus on selling, and you're going to generate the right products at the right prices. Your time to value from a quoting standpoint and from a ramp up standpoint is significantly decreased.
Yeah, absolutely. And, something that you had also touched base on in terms of the onboarding ramping, just as Katie had mentioned with onboarding, documentation, lastly, CPQ, making things look nice. I can only imagine how much more complicated it would be, especially if your company is scaling and now you've got mergers, acquisitions, you've got brand new products, you've got a whole slew of them. And if you're able to educate them during the onboarding process through videos, content, LMS, whatever it may be, I'd imagine that it would certainly hit on your point of an earlier ramp up period so that you can focus on sales and also have the supplemental guiding selling to ensure that you're actually selecting things that are appropriate and good and aligned for that deal. So with that said, just wondering, Eel, how does the empowerment of reps reduce, from your experience, deal desk burden, the burden that deal desk has sometimes when it comes to tickets that they could address, or maybe something that they can even configure? It may be something that Katie and Bruce have touched on, but how does the empowerment of reps reduce the deal desk burden, I guess, through CPQ?
Right. Well, one thing we talked about, Katie mentioned and Bruce talked about as well, there's a lot of things that Deal Desk has to do. They're dealing with a lot of different things with that sort of mediator between all those different departments and all of that. So there's a lot of things that they have to do and they're going to have to do. As we've talked about, there's all kinds of different processes that you have and different ways that you quote and different approval processes. The more that we can provide Deal Desk, just the ability to deal with the things that they have to deal with and not have to deal with all the extra things around that. So by giving them, empowering the salespeople through what we use as a guided selling playbook is to walk them through a decision tree, let them build out the right solutions that they need on their own. Where things might be questionable, put those guardrails in place or give them the option to choose from the options, make it visible to them, give them the transparency to know what they're able to select. We can take away a lot of that extra work that the Deal Desk is going to have to do. And that's not only in terms of putting together products and pricing. You've got to look today at your contracts. One of the things we've done at Deal Hub is we put contract management right into the quoting process. That means if I'm selling to a federal government account or I'm selling to a different country, maybe in Europe or the US, there's different regulations that are in place, different clauses that go into my contract, different commercial terms or aspects of that. Again, those are things that are going to end up on the desk of Deal Desk. That's the things people in Katie's group are going to have to deal with because someone just didn't know that when I'm selling in a certain country, there's a certain law that says you need this, or maybe they just didn't put the right entity name in. I'm selling through limited GmbH in Germany, wherever it is, and that's got a lot of financial implications around that as well. And those are things that Deal Desk will catch, but those aren't things that Katie's team needs to worry about. Why should they have to be dealing with those little things? That's taking more time from the deals that they really should be working on. So by giving salespeople the ability to walk or empowering them, walking them through that process that's been set for them, if you want to talk about it in terms of guardrails or just guiding them in the right direction, we can eliminate a lot of that extra work that Deal Desk is going to have to do, deal with the things that are important to you, and we'll give a much smoother flow. That'll also give that, we talked about earlier, the faster response time to customers. If I don't have to wait for Deal Desk to respond, again, they've got enough things on their plate, they want to get back as quick as they can, but if they're dealing with all these extra little things, they're not going to get back to you and all you need is a 2-minute review of something. We'll take away even that 2 minutes, put it into a guided process, let the rep do it on their own and get it out to the customer in real time. Yeah,
no, I certainly couldn't align anymore. And, this may be a conversation topic for another time. Just what I was thinking about your response in terms of, really empowering, the sales team, renewal managers, AEs, to go through something that's more structured, product pricing, guided selling, and really at the end of the day, I'm also curious about if the sales team is empowered. Is that reflecting the same as your Deal Desk team? Meaning that is your Deal Desk team able to actually deal with the deal? Are they equipped with the resources, with the skills, with the knowledge, the processes, to further supplement the ease and simplicity that the overall sales process goes with? And also, through what you had also mentioned, I would imagine that you'd also be able to see more data in terms of what your sales team's sentiment is in terms of this entire experience. Is the guided selling process actually guiding me? Can it actually be easier? Do we need more information and so forth? But aside from that small tangent on my end about Deal Desk, we talked about overall processing efficiency, particularly about the sales process and how that will then go into deal desk. So if we go and zoom in, be a little more granular in terms of revenue efficiency, specifically with something that DealHub provides, approval workflows, and something that's very, very common day to day. And in fact, something that involves multiple stakeholders, finance, legal, sometimes product, et cetera. Katie, I'm curious, from your experience, what are some of the key challenges around, I guess, discounting and potentially margin controls, where maybe it's the standard is 10% over list price or under list price, but now they're asking for 20%, 25%. So just out of curiosity, what has been some of the key challenges you've seen when it comes to discounting and margin control?
Well, I think first and foremost, the question is, are your approvals structured on margin or discounting? So, you could be in either camp. Personally, I think discounting is easier for sales to conceptualize. And at the end of the day, they really shouldn't be concerned with our costs or margins in that calculation. But the opinion differs. And, in addition to that, how do you structure your approvals? Is it on a product or SKU level, or are you applying discounting or approvals to an overall quote, right? Next would be, how do other factors such as a multi-year deal, more favorable payment terms like annual upfront, something like marketing rights or a case study that could potentially bring in more pipeline? How do those levers influence approvals? Those are just some things to ponder. As it relates to challenges, one that I would certainly say I've experienced over the years is change management and legacy pricing. So specifically in the SaaS industry, it is not uncommon for us to sign multi-year deals, 2, 3, 4-year, 5-year deals. So the product 5 years ago, the price the customer paid may differ quite a bit from where that price would be today. Certainly, as we've touched on, you want pricing consistency and integrity across your product line. And your accounting team will thank you, trust me, for pricing consistency. So the question there is how do you manage that, right? Like, do different approval thresholds kick in for existing business or existing customers? And if not, what's the talk track there? So this is a bit of a tangent, but still something that's worth mentioning is, like, if you are any change, especially related to pricing, you need to empower your salespeople to go into the field and speak to the pricing and defend the pricing and understand the pricing. Most importantly, that confidence is key. So, think of Deal Desk. We had mentioned this earlier where, all right, so what's Deal Desk's role in this if we have guided selling, if we have all these approvals triggered automatically? The answer is strategic little microphone in your ear, helping you out with the talk track, objection handling, and empowering you to go in and have that conversation with the customer.
Yeah, no, that is super insightful. Oftentimes you've got different categories of Deal Desk where sometimes it's called Deal Desk, Deal Management, Deal Pursuit, even Deal Strategy sometimes. And for some organizations, their Deal Desk will serve as that strategic advisor, sometimes in equipping the sales rep with objection management and giving them opportunities that they can leverage in their pricing when it comes to discounts and margins. That's, hey, if you want to have X% discount, then the payment terms should be net 30 instead of net 60, something like that, where there's a greater ability to actually have more control to structure the deal in a way that's much more favorable and maximizes the ROI. First,
right, and margin
and margin as well.
Right, your products can differ by margin. So sometimes a higher priced product or a product with a higher cost could have a, lower margin, but it's more expensive for the customer. So just managing those different parts of the deal to optimize is something that salespeople, come to my team about as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to go back to some of the notes that you had mentioned, if I could ask Bruce, one thing that Katie had mentioned was change management. And I think that that's something that you've probably seen throughout your entire experience and career, that sure, we've got a solution, that the tooling, like Eli mentioned before, but if there's no usage and adoption, then you purchase the solution, but no one's using it. In fact, it's actually burdening our sales process because we're overcomplicating something that should be seamless and easy. And so what is then the optimal way to handle ongoing change management in support of some of these dynamics that happen in organizations?
Yeah, definitely. And having seen a lot, having done multiple CPQ implementations, that's always a pretty significant change. Many times moving from no system or Excel to a system, or moving from I'm picking the products to truly guided quoting, which all those are significant changes for the team. So you always have to, it always has to be a collaborative effort. You can't just say this is what you're going to use and you have to use it. Otherwise, people will not buy in. And as EL mentioned, if they're not using it, then you might as well not have it. So you need 100% adoption. So it's got to be a collaborative effort, and you have to be able to explain the value proposition to them, how it's going to help them. Because if they just say I have to use this tool because you tell me I have to use it, that message once again does not go down well. So you have to explain to them and sit with them and say, this is why this is going to help you. And in specific, switching to a truly guided quoting tool, it was not as painful as I thought it would be. Because you have the mini reps like, hey, I know the products very well. I don't need guided quoting, but explaining to them of this playbook of how now they can focus on the selling process, not having to worry about the products. And when we introduce more products, they don't have to learn all those different product mixes, because usually reps usually focus on one product line. And now guess what? You can sell multiple product lines organically. You don't have to learn the other product line. So it allows them to expand what they sell. So that's more commission from them, more revenue. So everybody wins. And how it's going to make their process much more efficient, much more effective, better. And it's actually gone down very well, and they were very receptive to that. But you have to explain all that to them. You have to work with them together. And then ultimately things like being able to generate, great looking output like deal rooms, things like that, where it's like now you've got a quote, and 2 minutes later the customer has not only just a PDF, they have an entire living website document deal room that they're used to getting just a static piece of paper 5 hours later. Now they have multimedia content, quotes, contracts, e-signature. I mean, it makes them look so much better. It makes the process so much better, the process so much more efficient, and it's fewer clicks for them. I always say, the fewer clicks, the better, the more efficient. So once again, all those packaged together make it happen and make it work. But instead, it's got to be that collaborative, and you have to explain how this is going to make their process much more efficient, much more effective, and how it's going to work better for them. And once you do that, it's gone very, very well.
Yeah. Katie, please.
Oh, I'm just going to add something there. Like, I couldn't agree more, right? Like, salespeople don't like change, especially when change affects money in their pockets, right? So what I did, we just recently implemented Deal Hub, and I all knows about this, certainly. But I tried to build hype around CPQ and interviewed a few salespeople, did, a very happy path demo of the tool to them while it was still in our sandbox environment, and then made a hype reel of clips with, great sound bites from all of the salespeople in the style of a TikTok video. And the sales team absolutely loved it. They were like, super excited for go live, and it helped build confidence and trust, and made people actually look forward to the change. So if you're thinking about implementing, like getting sales buy-in and hyping it up, maybe you don't make a TikTok like myself, but something along those lines. And it was really, I couldn't recommend that more.
Yeah, and I share the same sentiment as well. I have used the Deal Hub CPQ platform before, and it's very intuitive and it's very simple in terms of the outline view, in terms of pulling data from one object to another. And what Bruce and Katie that you second is so critical for something so massive like CPQ, because you certainly do need to ensure that there is that value proposition. So what's the point of all this? You want to ensure that there's the alignment that perhaps this challenge is shared across the entire organization. And also reducing those clicks. How do we reduce the amount of administrative time, data entry? Are there things that we can automate for the AEs and renewal managers through a platform like CPQ? And on that note, deal desks, as they sometimes have different names, different responsibilities. Sometimes they're in different departments, for that matter, finance, ops, etc. Something that deal desk is sometimes associated with that sometimes tampers with that opportunity to facilitate change management is this notion of auditing and compliance, making sure that's correct. Which is essentially one of the primary purposes and focuses of Deal Desk, making sure that this is a deal that we can actually do, not just financially, but also technically. So, Eel, I'm just wondering, based off some of the things that folks in the Deal Desk Association has shared before about auditing and compliance, what exactly has been done to systematize that?
Well, I think if you look in terms, I break it down sort of thing. First of all, if you look at compliance can fall into a number of different categories. One of those is making sure that the salespeople are complying with what they're able to sell at that time. So we want to put some versioning into that. Versioning meaning in terms of what products we can sell. Have we reached a certain point where the new product is available, or are we still selling the old product? What is the pricing we're using? We all know it back from the days of Excel. When that's the way we were quoting, are we using the right version? Or are we using the version from 6 months ago now? Who's going to be responsible for the fact that we've got the wrong pricing that we're sending out to the customer, or possibly even the wrong legal terms that we're using the ones from long ago? So first of all, in terms of compliance, from how we're using things, we have to make sure that everybody's compliant in what we want to be getting out there in front of the customer. Obviously, beyond that, you've got the ability to go and make sure from an auditing perspective, how do we keep track of what we've actually sold the customer? One of the things a lot of organizations, I'm sure that are listening in today, they're either public companies or they're looking to go public. Obviously, you got that great compliance, that SOX compliance that you've got to go deal with. How do you know when pricing was changed? How do you know who changed the pricing? How do you keep track of that? How do you go? And obviously, you got it once a quarter, you got to go report off of that. And that's a big deal. And I've talked to customers before that don't have any mechanisms to do that, and they'll be spending 3 weeks. The sales operations team or rev ops team will spend weeks to go and prepare those reports. And then it's only a few weeks later, and then you're doing that again. So how do you put that in place? So, we use a process for versioning where we can keep track of what was changed all the time. We know what version is active in terms of like a number or a code to that. So what version a quote went out on. You can always go back to it. You can always revisit that later on. You can audit that, go back and understand where people were, what they were quoting, why they were quoting it, who approved that, and who gave that ability to do that. So I think it's really important to go and have a mechanism in place where you can have that ability to go back and audit. You can make sure people are using the right process. Obviously, it goes in terms of also the approval process. We can expand this into all different areas to make sure we're compliant, that the approvers are doing the approvals based off of what we're allowed at this time and all that. And obviously that will come into putting the right approval process in. In addition, obviously Deal Desk and others knowing what we're allowing right now, you want that automated in the process as well. So you want that systematized so that your approval process is also keeping track with that. So looking at CPQ solutions today, you have that ability, one, to keep track of things. You have to make sure that you're using the right versioning. You have the ability to put the right controls in place. You're able to go and adapt that as you need it, because things are changing all the time anyways. If you're in the SaaS business, you're probably every few months, you're already looking at new products, processes, or pricing or things like that, maybe a bit longer in some different industries, but you've got to have that ability. So without a good system in place that allows you to go and set those things, manage it, review it, be able to report off of it, you're having a lot of trouble. And that's one of the things that we provide that ability to go do. And obviously that's what CPQ is all about as well.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that note. It's so important to understands, at least from at least for deal desk, and I'm imagine sales, customer success, et cetera, to understand the history of the deal, the origins of this customer, and all that becomes a lot more complicated when you lack systems and tools and platforms like Deal Hub. But through these types of platforms, we're now able to systematize and also better help ensure that we are compliant both internally with our own policies and also externally as well, that we can report on. And what I really find interesting about platforms like CPQ that are very much relevant in the deal desk community is that CRMs and even CPQs are systems that ideally would be your single source of truth. The data is reliable, and there are opportunities to further enrich the data. I'm just wondering, if we're thinking about it in that sense, in terms of that alignment, ensuring that the communication collaboration is there. I'm just wondering then, Katie, from your experience with Deal Desk, how do you measure the success of process efficiency, I guess, from a Deal Desk point of view?
Sure. So, Stephen, as you know, I'm pretty active in the Deal Desk Association group on LinkedIn. And
Very
this
much.
is the number one question that people ask me. And I have a great answer. So, and it's probably the best thing I've done since stepping into a Deal Desk role. So we have a ticketing process that we use. It's called a Deal Desk request. It's actually a custom Salesforce object, pretty, simple build out. It's nothing that an admin wouldn't be able to spin out pretty quickly. But I'm sure you could do something similar in other CRMs, say like HubSpot. Anyway, what's been incredibly helpful for me with this object is one, the salesperson will submit a ticket by clicking on a button on an opportunity. So the ticket is then linked to an op. So as a Deal Desk leader, I'm able to report on things like opportunity influence, pipeline influence, close one influence, stuff like that. Two, we also have date stamp fields, right? So I can track things like adherence to service level agreements or SLAs. I can see how long my team is taking to accept or complete requests. Additionally, it's very easy for reporting. I have a queue. I can see, how many people on my team have how many requests open, who has bandwidth, who doesn't, and so on. And finally, what's been just even an added bonus of this is on, usually a quarterly basis, we'll review the tickets, identify, ask from the sales team, are they knowledge gaps? Is there areas that we can improve our automation? Do we need to create more documentation or even an enablement course? I use the request so much that when I onboard new hires to my team, I actually go back through, tweak the asks a little bit, and we'll do scenario and role playing from actual asks that came from the sales team. So when, a person on my team is ready to go have that conversation, advise on pricing, help out with strategy, they feel confident or equipped with the information to do so. So just all around process workflow, like project management, reporting, even for things like headcount, metrics, OKRs. I love a good dashboard moment in Salesforce. My team is like, you're like changing the colors and like the widgets. I'm like, what? It's just so fun and gorgeous. But so yeah, like just the use cases here truly are endless. And I couldn't, I don't think I could do my job without this ticketing system, frankly.
Yeah, no, I certainly understand and agree because, just as, I'd imagine everyone here, Katie and Bruce, you probably, can easily imagine that, especially when it comes to thinking about a CPQ platform, when you're coming from something that's manual like Excel and maybe Google Sheets or whatever the case may be, there's kind of like this visualization you could think about in terms of the maturity of that company in terms of being able to quote in a sophisticated way. And with that in mind, the power that a ticketing system provides, especially with the documentation being connected to that deal, is so critical, because I know that if there are organizations that are not leveraging a platform like Deal Hub, probably have approvals still being put into place, but being done manually. And so sometimes that's done through Slack, that's done through email, that's done through the phone, just all these siloed systems that can cause a lot of confusion, where now, if the approval workflows are not in place in a way that's systematized, it can, further complicate the sales process. So Bruce, if I could just ask you, same question, but how would you measure the success of your process efficiency for the sales team? Because I had actually a conversation not too long ago with Gideon, the CMO over at Deal Hub, and something that he shared with me that just blew my mind was that quota attainment may not necessarily equate to profitability or towards what you would expect. Quota attainment does not mean everything from kind of the first initial glance, and so something that I would imagine that could be looked into, or perhaps maybe not, is in terms of process efficiency. Has the number of days from opportunity creation to closed won stage actually decreased? Are we actually increasing our sales velocity by reducing the average number of days? And so, to that point, same question. How would you measure the success of your process efficiency with guided selling and so forth on a much broader level?
Yeah, so great question. So correct, it is that sales velocity is how fast are we getting to a decision on the deal. I want consistent, predictable results, and especially if you in the world of private equity or your public company, that's what they crave. Are those predictable, consistent results. Are we getting better? Is our win rate going up? So our win rate should be going up. So those are the things I measure, and then how we did that to an excellent degree. And once again, using the Deal Hub platform is because with that playbook, because before, if somebody just went in and picked some products and the deal was close won, close lost, we don't have any real data elements around what happened with that deal. We can ask the sales rep, but it's just gut feel, and gut feel really doesn't do me much good. I need to know, I need data and analytics around what is really going on. So we're capturing all those elements in a consistent, structured manner in Deal Hub using that playbook. And then we are writing all those data elements back to our CRM and Salesforce. And there are some opportunity product lines, we'd write back 25 different data elements, because sometimes we needed those for contracting, sometimes we needed those for billing. But they all fed into our data analytics. And now that we had all that very rich, consistent data in the same format every time, we fed that into our analytics engine and then run that through our analytics engine. And we're now able to see patterns as to, not hearsay, not gut feel, exactly why we're winning the deal based on a consistent data input. And that was revolutionary. We found out things that the more we discounted, the more deals were getting lost. So that was absolutely contrary to behavior before, but be able to feed all of that data and analytics into capture it structurally, send it into Salesforce, and then report on the analytics gave us incredible insight. And we're able to get better and better and target more profitable deals, faster, more efficient companies. And that evolution was it was a significant change to the company and an incredible improvement by doing that process.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to get that data, Bruce? I'm so excited now. Like, how long until you draw those conclusions? We're just on Deal Hub.
Yeah, it started flowing in immediately. So we fed it in Salesforce, then we fed it our analytics engine. We used Delma for our analytics engine. First, obviously, we couldn't make conclusions right away,
right?
But some of the conclusions actually we could get to pretty quickly were win-loss rate versus on discount, because now we have a structured discount. Before it was some people in quantity 1,000 price one, others quantity one price 1,000. So nobody's doing the same thing. Now it's all consistent with the true discount. We're able to see discount behavior right away. Some of the more sophisticated behavior, such as more of the demographics, how the questions were getting answered, a few more months to pull in, but within 3 months, we had a a lot of structured data. We had enough deals going through that we're able to see some really good patterns just after a few months.
Yeah, and that is super incredible because going back to this kind of this sense of the maturity level and also the level of sophistication with some of this automation and being able to begin actually leveraging data about perhaps, let's say, for example, product usage and adoption can really allow you to draw greater insight as to perhaps the next direction that we should go, maybe pivot regions, understand why one region's performing better than other, and then going even more granular into the nitty gritty information now that you've got something in place. And so really as a last note, I'll end things off with you, Eel. I'm just wondering, why is it so important then for deal desk teams and leaders to plan for an agile CPQ, to really just wrap things up? Why is it so important for folks in deal desk to plan for an agile CPQ?
Well, I think agile and planning actually go sort of against each other. You've got to plan to be, things are going to change all the time. As I said earlier, your products are going to change because products are going to come out with new capabilities, new features. Finance or the CEO comes back and says, hey, we're changing the pricing model, we're doing things around, or your processes are going to change for some reason or another. So you've got to have that agility today. There's nothing, we're in the 2-minute, show me a quick video, do me the things, change our processes really quick. We're always changing, we're testing, and the whole marketing concept of testing has gone into the sales process, I think, a lot of times, and we're trying new things out. You've got to be agile all the time. You've got to have the ability to go and respond very quickly. One of the things we did with our CPQs, we put it in a situation where the business people, it's the rev ops, it's the sales ops, it's a deal desk, you're able to go in and you're able to adapt it. It's a business environment, It's not an IT tool. Because the changes are happening at the business level, you can't wait on IT, you've got to respond very quickly. So you got to have that ability to go and adapt very quickly to anything that's going to change. You got to have it in the right hands of the right people, people like Bruce, like Katie, those people that are there in the front lines, they're responding immediately. Also, it's the way the sales organization is responding to what the customers are asking for, how that things are changing in the field. You've got to be agile to all those different things. So that agility comes at a lot of different areas, and you've got to be able to respond to that really, really quickly. So you got to plan to be agile, but you've got to have that ability to really have that agility there that you can change and you can adapt to anything that's happening. And that's got to be done in real time. I talk to customers and they tell me, yeah, we're planning something. It's going to take us 2 or 3 months till our system allows us to do that. By the time it's 2 or 3 months later, it's 2 or 3 months old. You should have had that 2 or 3 months ago. What are you doing now? That means when you do a change, it's not necessarily minutes, but it could be hours or at least days that you want that change. It's not weeks or months. You've got to be able to respond very quickly. So you do need that ability to do that. One of the things we put into Deal Hub to make that very easy. That's a success to organizations to be able to respond very quickly to the changes that are happening.
Yeah, no, it could have been explained any better than that, because I think at the end of the day, platforms like Deal Hub bring in exactly what Bruce was mentioning. It brings in that value proposition. Sure, I'm sure you can hype it up, maybe through Snapchat. I don't know, if TikTok is for the new generation of folks, but it also brings that centralization, also that alignment with everyone in a way that actually promotes that agility for deal desk teams to ensure that, hey, maybe you are trying to set up a step-up deal, or you're looking into pricing that's a little more complex. So it's also promoting agility for sales folks, deal desk, finance, et cetera, and it really just brings everyone all together. So this was quite the incredible experience. We've got Katie, we've got Bruce, and we have Eel. This was a wonderful event. Just to sum it up, we were talking about playbooks, we were talking about approval workflows, agile pricing, and last but not least, just bringing it all together with communication and collaboration. So special thanks to Deal Hub. And lastly, Katie from Braze, Bruce from Torchy's Tacos, and Eel from Deal Hub. So thank you again. I hope you enjoyed this webinar.